Welcome back. I'm Marcus Peter. I'm joined by a person who's no stranger to this program, a friend, John Horvat. Now, John wears a lot of hats, as has been the case for a lot of the guests we've been having on this week. John is senior contributor at the Imaginative Conservative, and he's also the director and vice president of the American Society for the Defense of Tradition, Family, and Property. And he joins us today to talk specifically about the AI conversation, but I want to begin by addressing some of these questions pertaining to the Christian role, the Catholic role in the culture as it pertains to things like tradition, family, and property. John, thank you for joining us. How are you?
Oh, it's very great. It's great to actually meet you in person since we've just generally been through email and through talking on the phone. So this is a great opportunity. Yeah,
it's been a joy too. And I remember when you came by and said hi, I said, this is the first time we're meeting in person.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
But we've been corresponding for a while now, and I greatly enjoy our exchanges. We think along the same vein. And I want to jump right into this because this is a crucial part of the conversation. As Catholics, we actually have a baptismal obligation to engage the culture with the truths of Christianity, but that doesn't mean we're calling for a Catholic political order. Mm-hmm. So help us understand that.
Well, yes. We are involved in the world. The world is here, put here for our sanctification. So we do have to take advantage of the situations. Everything we do, it's based on our human action. Human actions often involve moral decisions, right or wrong, good or bad. And so there are norms that are in place that help us to achieve that, the good or the bad, and ultimately achieve salvation. So this does have political implications. It has economic implications. It has social implications. And I think the church has a lot to say in that regard that we ignore because it's just said, well, church is over here and everything else is not in the thing. It's not to say everything is religion. There are distinctions between all these different fields, but the church has a guiding, orienting, helps us when we do act, that we act in a moral way.
Yeah, and therefore we're not saying everything is religion, but there is a reality of religion and liberty, religion and economics, religion and the culture.
Oh, absolutely. The church has so much to say in all these fields that we don't think of. I wrote a book called Return to Order, and it talks about a lot of things about the economics of what a Christian order should be. And I was just astonished, how many different things, how the church didn't dominate those fields, but it certainly gave the orientation that allowed a society to flourish because it is moral, and for us to fulfill our vocation, or what we were made to be.
To pivot that a little then into the AI conversation, which you've been writing about quite a bit on the Imaginative Conservative. Pope Leo XIV's encyclical has unfortunately received undue criticism from many parties, but particularly from some Catholic parties, with regard to the fact that, well, here's a modernist pope talking about a modernist thing, and he's not concerned about salvation, he's not concerned about Christ and Christology. I patently disagree with that criticism, but I want to invite your expert contribution on this.
Well, I mean, I have not actually studied as much as I want to the document. I did notice that it is very anthropological, and I would prefer encyclicals to be more theological, because that is sort of the field. I mean, that doesn't mean to say that the theology would be distinctive from it, but my preference would be in that line. So, yes. I think it makes very valid points about the humanness of our human existence, and how we need to, we cannot concede, or we cannot make those, allow the machine to replace us and to cause to that. Technology is here to serve us. We are not here to serve technology. So it makes very valid points. I think there needs to be. I would hope that he would go farther the next time around, let's say, and say, well, let's build on this, and then we can see how this helps in our striving for our salvation. I think this particular document is addressed to a very broad audience and not to a focused audience just for Catholics.
Right, exactly.
And so I think that's why it is the way it is.
And there's a tremendous amount of wisdom in how he wants us to navigate the AI sphere, echoing a lot of what you've been thinking about too, chief among which is his concern, his anthropological concern, is that without a proper sense of formation in catechesis and thinking about the human person rightly, we can run the risk of beginning to believe that we're creating a kind of humanoid entity in artificial intelligence, but that is far from the truth.
Right. We don't want to do that, obviously, and many people say AI is a tool, and I don't necessarily like that formulation. I think it's more of a weapon. We can use weapons legally and for our self-defense and to help us to navigate in a world in a very cruel and wicked world, but you need to work with it safely. You can't just point it all around. You have to be focused on what you're doing in order to protect yourself. Yeah. I think it's much more. I've used this metaphor a lot here, especially in places like Texas. That's a great metaphor. Everybody loves the idea of a weapon, of a gun or something like that. But I think it is. You can't just play around with it. I think there are a lot of dangers in playing around with it. The chatbots syndrome, where you have people 14 hours on a conversation, direct you into straight. I mean, that's not a tool anymore. It's something that you have to defend yourself against. You can't just do those kind of things. And there are a lot of other things that could possibly also be abused. So a tool is usually has a proper function and it's used it's easy to use in a very helpful way. But a weapon is not. It's something you have to respect, and you can't just play around or point around wherever it needs.
I get what you mean. So within the grander category of tools, this is a specific kind of tool that warrants a particular kind of reverence. And I think that's a good analogy, because we can't approach this very powerful technology with a sense of frivolity about it.
Yes, and so many people do. Let's ask, and see what they say. And you get some very strange things. I bring it up in some of my articles that AI. There are some very dark places on the internet, extremely dark places, and from the very beginning, the internet was a place of techno-pagans, techno-occultists,
techno-hedonists.
They're actually even their websites and everything. So. And as a creature of God, technology, and even this technology, the devil can have an influence in that point. The devil cannot create matter, but it can manipulate matter. And there are cases I haven't seen of occult influences in these kind of things. And I think these are the kind of things that the devil can get. Can influence. If the devil can work a Ouija board, why not a motherboard? Because these are things that the devil can manipulate. The devil will not always manipulate it. It's not to say every computer is a tool of the devil. Right. The devil knows his limitations, and also if he did it if it was all the time, it would be obvious, and it would probably be very much contingent upon the person's openness to these types of things. But I think these things are happening there. I mean, you talk to exorcists and they will confirm there's some very strange things going on in cyberspace, and AI will only make it worse.
I'm talking with John Horvat II. He is a senior contributor at the Imaginative Conservative, director and vice president of the American Society for the Defense of Tradition, Family, and Property. We're talking right now about artificial intelligence and Catholic engagement with this emergent technology and the kind of prudence that rightly is necessitated for navigating, in John's analogy here, what is not only a tool but a kind of weapon, and therefore the kind of reverence that's owed in the approaching of this technology. We're going to take a short break. We'll continue on the other side. Stay tuned. I'm Marcus Peter. And welcome back. I'm Marcus Peter. I'm talking with John Horvat II, senior contributor at the Imaginative Conservative, and he is vice president and director of the American Society for the Defense of Tradition, Family, and Property. And John, as you were talking earlier about potential spiritual dangers. Now, we want to be cautious about how we word these things, right? We're not trying to say that every Catholic therefore has to play Ghostbusters and go hunting the devil wherever he might be in every nuance and sentence. But at the same time, we need to recognize that everything in the material order can be perverted by evil, in as much as it can be utilized for good when its end is the true, the good, and the beautiful.
Yes, absolutely. This is most considerations about AI are materialistic, and therefore they don't consider anything spiritual. And our Catholic perspective is that there is a spiritual world that is reflected here, and can spirits act upon people for the good or the evil. So yes, I think we need to at least have that into consideration, and of course use the technology that's there that you have to use today. It's impossible not to use.
Yeah.
So we need to use it and use it well, and use it well for, to defend the faith. It's deliver. To even be better than the other side in that case, in the use of technologies. So, but of course, having that in mind.
There's a reality to what you said that I think we cannot take for granted, whether we like it or not. Virtually every form of technology we're utilizing right now, companies are moving towards incorporating artificial intelligence.
Yes.
So my bride and I have been using Google almost as long as we've been alive.
Yes.
And today you can't make a Google search without it giving you the...
Gemini 3?
Yes.
It's Gemini 3, yeah. Or 4 now, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know what the progress of the chatbots are now for Gemini, but Amazon, my bride and I shop on Amazon for things, like children's diapers and whatnot. And we discovered lately that whatever version of AI Amazon is using has been incorporated into the Amazon searches. So it's not only going to suggest things based on past searches, it is trying to learn our behavior to suggest future purchases.
Right.
Which is an annoyance. We know what we want. We just want to get it and get off.
Right, yes. But I mean, it is in that case, we're in a sense victims, because we can't compete with that kind of number crunchings and ways of being. So I think we need to be careful and not to use this as much as we are. It's hard to say that because everybody's on their phones, but it's another. As I mentioned in one of the articles, is that we cannot delegate our intellective functions to the AI. We are made to ponder, to think, to contemplate, to these that is the high. Those are the highest functions of the mind and the soul, and only we can exercise those functions. And so, the AI revolution tends to take that and to turn it into the spontaneous, to the sensational, to the dopamine. Fixes that you can get from these types of activities.
And that's why, to echo the brilliance, in reading the document, I sincerely believe that as anthropological as it is deeply theological, because you almost verbatim just echoed exactly what Pope Leo XIV talks about in terms of the intellective functions of the human person that are a direct result of being bearers of the divine image. And so that hard work, like you rightly mentioned, of thinking, of abstracting truth, of learning for the sake of synthesizing the fact to discover what God is trying to say in it. All of those things are, I'm going to use the word muscles. They are muscles that need to be developed within the intellective faculties.
Absolutely.
And they need to be trained. So speak to the danger of just delegating and relegating all of that to a chatbot.
Right. I mean, they are, as you say, they are. It is an exercise. It's something that needs to be done. And exercises are not always pleasant, but they are very satisfying as well. So that we've already seen this happening in just with the computer revolution, the screens and everything, where it's not necessarily even delegated. It's just a sensation. I want this. I want that. they're not even thinking in terms of contemplation or the concentration, reading. You know, all these kind of things are a very important part of they're a part of our spiritual lives. It's not even just intellectual lives, it's spiritual life, because you are exercising those things by which we can come to know God better. Contemplate leisure, of course, from Francis Pieper,
Joseph Pieper.
Joseph Pieper, yeah. It's just leisure is a very important part of our lives, and with the frenetic intemperance of the pace of our life, we lose this function of leisure and how important it is to being a Catholic.
And therein lies the issue. There are things that AI is capable of, and frankly, as far as these large language learning models are concerned, they are doing what's called machine learning, taking large data sets, synthesizing, and coming up with averages of what the perceived answer might look like. That's not human intellection.
Right. It's not even that accurate. You know, they've done studies on these things, and they say, well, Gemini 3 or some of these other Claude or whatever. I remember reading an article about Gemini 3, and they say, well, they are accurate maybe 90% of the time, and that's not a very good average. Right. One of them said, you know, every hour Google is lying millions of times to you because it's so many times the facts are not right, or the sources don't really support what you're saying. And as they're drawing from us, we get what we put into it, and so they will. It's not an infallible source of information. So we have to be very careful not to treat it as a god. It's something it isn't. It's based on us. We put what we put into it, and there's a lot of bad stuff, and also very bad, very inaccurate and wrong things that are out there that we are drawing from these models.
Yeah. And so herein lies the great issue, that if we want to think about our operations rightly in terms of culture and society, we can see what is a tool that's useful. But we don't have to seed, and this is where the guidance of the church, like you rightly mentioned, it orients, it illuminates, and it gives us the guideposts, the fences necessary to be able to navigate these things without losing primarily divine revelation and thereby our humanity.
Yes, absolutely, and the humanity is the very important thing. We will lose our humanity if we simply go along with it, and especially young people, where their minds are being formed and their habits are being formed as well. With these kind of things, it is very concerning. I think it is very, very concerning.
You do a lot of work in what we can call the conservative conversation.
Yes.
So tradition, family, property. Can you speak to that as an obligation that overflows from the Catholic reality, baptismal reality?
Right. We are made to know, love, and serve God. We are put in a place where we can know, love, and serve God. And the actions that we do in this place are basically tradition, which we carry down, and the
wisdom of the fathers
from time immemorial, that give us the guideposts so we don't have to constantly reinvent the wheel. We have the family, which is the ideal instrument for the propagation of the species. And we have property, which is the actual place, the location, whereby we can do all these things in that place and not feel threatened and not have the instability of being constantly fearful of state intervention or tribal intervention or whatever. Throughout history, property is a very important element. People don't understand that. They think it's sort of a capitalist type thing, but
right.
No, it's an actual necessity of man to have property.
Yeah.
2 commandments to defend property: "Thou shalt not steal, and thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's goods." So it's an important part of it. And if we take that away, you don't have a place to act.
The right to private property ownership is not something that was contrived by later in this case, North American history and the invention of this republic. If anything, it is a direct overflow from first natural law principles that found a particular enshrinement in the entire Hebrew-Jewish heritage and then found full flourishing in the entire Christian revelation.
Yes.
And so you've got different schools of thought that have come out of the Catholic sphere that have reiterated this. So speak to our listeners about that.
Yes. Excuse me. Yeah, private property is... it is something very important. It's not only important for the people who own property, but even for those who don't own property, because it sets goals for people to see. You know, if you see someone with a lot of property, you say, "I would like to have something like that." It's something doable because that person has done it, and it is an immense incentive for the person to, therefore, practice virtue, because that's the only way you're going to get property unless you steal that property. But it is an immense help for the soul. And it is, there's so many virtues that are involved. The practice of justice, because justice gives each one his due. And when you do something and you get something back, it's in the form of property. It is the realization of justice. So there's just so many ways that property is an important part of our lives and a part of our society as well. Because everything it needs a place to take place. It needs a locus.
We have about 30 seconds. How can people reach you to find out more about the kind of work you do?
All right. For me in particular, I've wrote a book called Return to Order. You can go to returntoorder.org, and there you could find information about that particular book. Or you can go to tfp.org, Tradition Family Property, tfp.org, and you can see some of our activities and our articles there.
My guest is John Horvat, the second senior contributor at the Imaginative Conservative, and he is also the vice president and director of the American Society for Tradition, Family, and Property. And we've been talking about the artificial intelligence conversation and how Catholics ought to be navigating it rightly. And the truth of the reality is, while we don't fear it, approach this technology with a sense of cautious, even reverential fear. In that sense, what we mean is exercise wisdom and prudence in utilizing what John is describing as more than a tool, as quite a weapon in the human existence. Stay tuned, I'm Marcus Peter.